Hey guys, this is Theo Joe Tech. Now, mechanical keyboards have been around for a while, but I've noticed recently that they've become all the rage, especially for gaming keyboards, and I thought I would make this video to talk about why people like mechanical keyboards so much, what makes them so much better compared to a typical keyboard that you might be familiar with. So a typical keyboard that most people know about are usually a membrane or rubber dome keyboard. How these work is there's kind of like a rubber dome structure that holds the key up, but if you press it down hard enough, it collapses the rubber part and makes contact with the board below it and then sends the signal. This type of keyboard technology is really popular because it is very cheap and also really flexible, so you can even use it to make stuff like roll-up keyboards. Now for mechanical switches, it's a little bit more complicated. There's several different types of mechanical switches, and I'm going to stick to a family of switches called Cherry MX, and I'll get into specifics a little bit later. In a mechanical switch, instead of a piece of rubber, you have several different components such as a spring, a housing, the key cap itself, and a few other little components. But the function is the same. The switch creates resistance using the spring until you press hard enough to get to the contact point, which sends the signal. So what's the point of using a mechanical keyboard if they do the same thing? Well, the biggest thing is that mechanical switches are a lot more satisfying and easy to type on. You see, with a membrane keyboard, you have to press all the way down with your finger all the way to the bottom, which on poorly made keyboards especially can be quite tiring and fatiguing, and you sometimes have to press pretty hard to make that contact. With a mechanical switch, on the other hand, the activation point is a couple of millimeters below the top position, but then you can also press further down past it. So it's not like you have to jam your finger all the way down to the bottom of the position on every key. You can go a little bit past it, you can go to the bottom, or you can just press it down about halfway and it would still activate as long as you got past that activation point. That means it's a lot easier to type on because your fingers have a lot more leeway in how far they're going to get pressed. So you could press it a little bit harder, but it still wouldn't go all the way down to the bottom, and it's just a lot less fatiguing. Another thing about mechanical keyboards is that there's several different types of mechanical switches. So most mechanical keyboards today use a line of switches by the company ZF Electronics, previously known as Cherry, and their Cherry MX switch line is pretty much used in all mechanical keyboards. And their line of mechanical switch types is referenced by different colors. Some of them are clicky, for example, some of them are tactile, some are not, and I'm going to go through a couple of the common ones. The first common type is Cherry MX Blue, which has a very distinctive clicky sound and tactile feedback for activation. This is what most people associate with mechanical keyboards because that clicky sound is so distinctive and so recognizable. This is actually the type of key that I have in my keyboard, and I really like it. The only downside is that it's very loud, so if you do a lot of typing and there's other people with you, it can get a little bit annoying for them. Another type of switch is the Cherry MX Red, which has a very light and linear press, which means that no matter how far down you press, it's the same resistance all the way to the bottom. It doesn't get heavier as you press down. This type of switch also does not click, and it has no tactile feedback, which means that you can't actually feel when you get past the activation point to make the keystroke. Cherry Brown switches do have tactile feedback, but they don't click, so you can feel it, but they're a lot quieter than Cherry Blues. And there's plenty of other Cherry MX switches that are less common, such as gray, green, or clear, but the ones that I talked about are probably the most common. So you can pretty much choose whatever experience you want, and I think that's the main advantage of a mechanical keyboard is once you find a switch that you like, you can buy a keyboard that has that switch type, and it's going to feel the same no matter what. That's a lot unlike a rubber dome keyboard where the cheap ones feel like crap and the good ones are decent. And the switch type I use, as I mentioned before, is the Cherry MX Blue. That's my preference at the moment, and that's on my keyboard, the Cooler Master Quickfire Rapid. If you guys are interested in that, I'll put a link in the description so you can check it out. That was the same one that I had a few shots of before. And I'm interested in what you guys think. What's your preference of key type? Do you like tactile feedback or not? You can let us know in the comments section. We can talk about and debate which is the best one. If you guys like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up so I know you enjoyed it, and you can check out some other videos on the right hand side by just clicking them or looking in the description for the same link, such as if you're on a phone. If you want to subscribe, I try to make new videos 3 times a week, so it should be worth it. So I look forward to hearing from you guys. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Have a good one.